Hi friends, welcome back to this series on selling and TA. In the first 4 parts, we talked about transaction analysis and we looked at the various ego states, the various kinds of transactions, and how this transaction results in giving you a stroke and creating a positive bank account. In this part, we are going to specifically look at how does this whole concept impact selling and how can we use the learnings from TA in order to become effective salespeople. So first I will start off by saying that what is happening in a conventional selling setup. When you are conventionally selling, it is, if you look at any sales call and look at the transactions happening between the customer and the salesman, most of the time the customer and the salesman, the communication that occurs is between the child ego state of a salesman to the parent ego state of a customer. Generally, when a medical rep visits a customer, the customer is senior to him in age. He is more qualified or knowledgeable. We are visiting him in his chamber or in his clinic. So all these basic symbols, all the basic environmental parameters go in favor of the customer. And thereby, when the salesman enters that, knowingly, unknowingly, his child ego state gets hooked in and he operates and talks out of the child ego state. So 90% of the time, he will either do a can detailing or a preparation or do certain standard processes. He gets into an auto mode and his job is about just delivering the message. And customer also, knowing that the entire conversation is emerging from the child ego state, addressing his parent ego state, the parent ego state responds, or he also starts talking and dealing with the salesperson, with the medical rep from a parent ego state. So the predominant conversation that occurs between the medical rep and the doctor or between the salesperson and the customer is a child to parent and parent to child complementary transaction. By and large, these are the patterns of transactions on which the whole selling process is based on. Sometimes we look at companies invest into a customer, they do CRM, they oblige the customer in some form or the other, they invest onto the customer, they buy in the customer at some place or the other. The moment you have bought in the customer, we have invested on the customer, the salespeople and the organizations think that they now have an upper hand, they have obliged the customer, so they start knowingly, unknowingly talking from the parent ego state, trying to hook the child, trying to make the customer feel that he needs to now pay back. And this conversation, in many cases, wherever you've invested on the customer, becomes the aggressive conversation between the parent of the salesman and the child of the customer. They are trying to hook the child of the customer, and this relationship goes. Now, both these conversations, while they are happening, it does not mean that the other ego states are not talking. Yeah, the other ego state talk. There is some amount of data exchange between them. There is some amount of child play happening between them, child to child conversations happening to them. There may be some amount of cross transactions also happening. But the predominant transactions that happen between the customer and the salesman are between the parent of the customer and the child of the salesman. This relationship will be known as a submissive relationship. If it happens between the parent of if we have successfully invested in buying of the customer or doing CRM on the customer, the relationship that may get established between the parent of the salesman and the child of the customer, and this relationship would predominantly be an aggressive relationship. Both these relationships don't really work. What needs to happen, where selling happens the best, which relationships will be more powerful, will give you better results and better productivity, is when the adult of the salesman speaks to the adult of the customer. And when this adult to adult conversational flow is maximum, you will see that the productivity and selling happens better. So how do we build this adult to adult conversation? The entire effort in the multiple sales trainings that I've been able to do is to equip sales teams to build this adult, to strengthen the adult communication so that they can then hook in to the adult of the customer, and thereby the adult to adult conversation goes higher, and therefore the productivity and the impact is better. So there are various ways to look at how do we build the adult. The first thing that we need to recognize that when we induct medical reps into the organization, and how we train them, how we equip them, what is the marketing support that we provide, what kind of managerial support that we provide in the field, all these things will go around building the adult of the salesperson. So what do we do? Basically in the training, if there's a tremendous emphasis given on the selling skills of planned persuasion, you are basically training the child ego state of a customer. When they are inducted into the organization, how do companies talk to these reps? It's their first job. They come into the organization. They are any which ways not feeling powerful. The environment is not conducive for them. They slowly and steadily, their adult ego state gets contaminated with the child. Their constant response, we are all treating them as talking to their child ego state when they join in the organization, whether it's during training, whether it's during meetings, how superiors talk to him, how marketing people talk to him, how various levels of the company interact with a rep who's coming in. We are constantly building a conversation to the child ego state. It's a directive conversation, and the child's, whenever he comes to workplace, the auto mode is that he needs to get into the child ego state and respond. When he goes into the customer's chamber, the customer is into a more powerful position. The environment is in the favor of the customer. He feels that the child ego state comes in. His manager works with him, his PMT talks to him. Work environment, he is subjected to this predominant operation out of a child ego state. Here, if during training, during various interactions with him, if we can start awakening the adult ego state of the salespeople, then they will build in this assertive character. So during your training programs, during the selling modules that you put in, during the induction, you need to ensure that the adult of the salesperson is awakened. The second aspect that we try and talk about, look at the conversation that the area managers, the regional managers, the sales managers have with the sales rep. Constantly, they also talk to the child ego state in an individual, and he's expected to complement those transactions with the child ego state. So here again, we need to train managers, we need to train the regional managers, we need to train his line managers or any manager who speaks to him to ensure that he constantly communicates with the adult ego state in the salesperson. Then let's come down to when he's going out to the customer, what he needs to do. The entire selling model, the entire marketing, detail aids, visual aids, literatures that we make, you need to ensure that there is a lot of questions, a lot of interaction that these tools will help him provide. So if an individual has to talk into an adult ego state is only equipped to ask questions. So during your selling modules, during the marketing promotional inputs that you are making, ensure that the rep is made to question the customer. He is taught to question a customer. He is taught to get into an interaction and a detailing with the customer. This forces that individual to talk to an adult, to the adult in the customer, and slowly and steadily the adult will respond. Now, actually, if you ask me, all the companies when they are going, all the salesmen when they are going, they in a way get into the parent ego state of the customer. Customers, when they see a medical rep, they will get into the parent ego state to talk. But over a period of time, if a salesperson comes in, if a medical rep comes in, who asks a lot of relevant questions, who talks based on data, the adult in the salesman goes and targets the adult of the customer, and when he makes this constant effort, slowly the customer from his parent ego state will move down to an adult ego state. If we are able to build in an adult to adult relationship, if this communication, if this relationship is the predominant relationship, then you will see that you will be able to get higher productivity and higher effect. The other aspect that I'm trying to talk about, this is a concept that I try and cover. It is called the concept of adult breathing. In any relationship, any interpersonal skills, whether you're dealing with children, whether you're dealing with family members, whether you're dealing with colleagues, if we can help the other person's adult to respond more, and the adult becomes a predominant ego state from where they talk, they will be able to create a more positive personality, which will build in better relationships, will be able to sell better, will be able to interact better. So read up, try and understand what is your what kind of an child ego state you've got. Is there a contamination at workplace? Just check whether what is the kind of contamination, what kind of child ego state enters in, and the normal automated conversations that you have, the general responses that you have in front of a customer, are they coming in from the child ego state? So if you look at this, you read a couple of books, I would highly recommend reading I Am Okay, You Are Okay by Thomas Harris. This is a fantastic book which helps you understand your own ego states, helps you understand your own contamination. And the more you try and work removing this contamination, the more you help other people's adults breathe, you will be able to ensure that you become a magnet in building interpersonal skills and interpersonal relationships. I hope you've liked this series on selling and TA. Please subscribe to my channel and keep watching. Thank you very much, and God bless.